Well, we've been doing Grimes Watch throughout this entire process with the 76ers, and we got a new development as one league executive offers a harsh reality for the restricted 76ers free agent. All that and more on this edition of Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we do thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. His name is Keith Pompey. He writes for Inquirer.com, 76ers beat writer covering your squad for about a decade and a half. My name is Marc. I've been talking Philly sports with you for about 20 years now. Can't believe it. Quentin Grimes, Keith, every time we talk about it in great depth, not just with the news segment we do with Grimes Watch, I still have to think to myself, Quentin Grimes has taken up a lot more time in the offseason in terms of coverage than I thought we'd ever care about when they acquired him at last year's trade deadline. So, with all that being said, the new thing that's out there, and you saw this, you sent it over to me. It's one league executive's opinion, but I think this gives you a great landscape as to the way the league could be thinking about Quentin Grimes and the way the Sixers should be thinking about Quentin Grimes. Now, the quote for the people on the podcast, the way the cap is now, this is one league executive to the Athletics, Fred Katz. The way the cap is now, why would you spend $20 million on Quentin Grimes when you can get Gary Trent Jr. from the Bucks for a minimum? We shouldn't just sign young players because they're young. You've got to believe Grimes is going to develop into your starting backcourt with Tyrese Maxey. Keith Pompey, your reaction to this one league executive's evaluation of the current Grimes situation?
Yeah, that was a harsh quote. I felt like, when you saw it. But again, everyone has their own opinion. But my reaction was like, they're really trying to destroy this guy from getting paid. Now, Gary Trent Jr. is going to make $3.6 million this year. But what they're talking about is last year, the Milwaukee Bucks did get him for the veteran minimum, which in his case was $2.6 million. But again, it's one of those things like you look at the Milwaukee Bucks last year where they had Dame Lillard and who was going to be their guy, right? Gary Trent was more or less they looked at him as a secondary player, as a rotation player, someone like that. The Sixers situation is a little different, right? Their situation is they're looking at this guy as a piece who can help them, battle for it, contend for a championship. So with that being said, he's going to get paid to be more of a priority than Gary Trent Jr. was last year. But again, it was a great quote, and it was from an anonymous source. But, it's different situations.
Does this impact, in all honesty, the one thing I don't like about the evaluation is in what reality are we living? Because Gary Trent Jr. at 3.6, it's not like you're going to get Quentin Grimes for 3.6. What's the minimum the Sixers could get him at?
The minimum that the 76ers can get him at is, like if he doesn't opt to take anything, then he'll make $8.7 million and become a free agent. But the thing that I was looking at, it seems like, of course he wants $25 million, but it seems like if you're adding everything up, and I didn't do everything, but for the most part, I think that likely there are people out there that think he's worth $15 million for the most part, around there. But the question is, well, how many years do you want to give it to him, right? There were some people like, let's give him 4 years, $60 million. I think that's the major question. Right now, I think that for Quentin, $15 million will be fine for him moving forward. But again, how many years does he want to be tied up with that $15 million, knowing that the salary cap is going to go up after the TV money and everything like that?
Mm-hmm. It's in a world almost, there's a world that exists that this harsh reality of the situation right now for Grimes might work in the long term, because this is the way that maybe most of the NBA is thinking when looking at Quentin Grimes. Now, two things. One, whatever we pay him, the Sixers are going to match it anyway because they want him back. The other is he even going to be worth the money we'd be offering him anyway if we're going to be offering him anything around, the $15 million, for instance, that I think is more so along the lines of reality than the $25 million ever was that was thrown out there. So do you see a world where this actually works out well for Quentin Grimes himself, where he signs a closer to that, $15 million deal on a short-term contract, and then is able to explore unrestricted free agency down the line?
I think right now Quentin Grimes is, he's, the thing is you got to get paid. And that's the key for players. Like, he's a guy who showed what he can do last year. Sometimes you settle for money. And then, like just say if he settles, right? He settles for what the Sixers give him. Next thing you know, he goes in the corner and he's standing in the corner. He doesn't get the ball as much. And then all of a sudden, well, you may be getting the minimum on your next deal. For right now, I feel like, he's shown the 76ers what he can do. And if I'm him, I'm going to try to get paid, because you don't know what the situation is going to be like. You don't know if, you're here and then all of a sudden they have to make some trades and then you're gone and you go somewhere else. I mean, I think that this is the chance for him to get paid, especially knowing that they have that new television deal going on. And you're Quentin Grimes. Let's think about this. So I'm Quentin Grimes, and, you're paying Paul George, you're paying Joel Embiid, based on their resumes, they both, are max players, right? But you're paying them. But there's a chance that you're going to have to depend on me more so than Paul George, based off of, we don't know if he's shot or not. We don't know if he's continued to be injured. So it's one of those things where if there's an opportunity that, or a possibility that I'm going to be getting plays ran for me doing other things, well, then I might as well get paid, right? So the thing is, it's like, because to be honest with you, if I'm him, I would gamble. Now, again, gamble meaning if I can't come to an agreement with him, you bet on yourself and you say, oh, guess what? I'll take the 8.7, but I have to be 100% confident that I am going to get the same type of reps or similar, right? Because if that case, the Sixers are looking at it like, do you really want to give up 15? Do you really want to give up $8 million off the gate? But at the same time, if you gamble, and with the new TV deal coming out, and if you have a solid season, then all of a sudden the Sixers are looking at themselves like, man, we might have messed this up, because now we really can't afford them.
The name that keeps going around in my head is Evan Turner. And the reason for that, I know that seems random, but the reason for that, some might remember this, I think it was 2016 where there was a new deal in the NBA or there was about to be a new deal in the NBA, and the players were like, let's get it now. And Evan Turner went from making like $4 million to about $16-17 million when he went from the Celtics to the Trailblazers. And it was like, I just remember thinking the NBA has lost its damn mind. But now we're in a situation where you could have a new influx of money with that TV deal that you're talking about. And Quentin Grimes could be one of those players like Evan Turner was almost a decade ago to cash in because of new money coming into the league.
Yeah, you always have to get paid. I mean, that's one of those things, and I get it. People always talk about, well, what about winning the championship? What about doing all this other stuff? I get that too. But when you're in your prime, your focus is to get paid. Like, is a reason why, some people are like, oh, Tobias Harris, why did he take that money? Why didn't he take that money? Why wouldn't he take that money? So, I feel like it's one of those things. In the case of Evan Turner, you're right. He goes from making 3.4 million to 16.3, right? And then 17 and this and that. Like, it's like you have to take that. You have to take it. Especially, he was 28 at the time. He knew afterwards that was going to be his final big payday. So you got to take the money, man, when you're hot.
I ain't mad at you. You make that money, man. You make that bread. Simple as that. Now, when we come back, I want to talk about the 15 million potential, the 8.7 million potential, and really the money's one thing, but you're trying to win basketball games here, Keith. The one thing I want to ask you point blank is, how vital is Quentin Grimes to this whole thing working with or without health being factored into it? We'll talk about that when we return. This is Locked On 76ers and the Locked On 76ers YouTube channel. Now I want to tell you about Monarch Money. Speaking of managing money, maybe Quentin Grimes will be needing Monarch Money. That's called a tie-in, folks. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, or maybe you're a restricted free agent in the NBA, Monarch Money puts you in the driver's seat, and it's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. Oh, it's so much more. It's a complete financial command center. Keeps track of your investments, your accounts, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Maybe you got young kids like yours truly. You're saving for college. Maybe you want to buy a new car. Maybe you just got married, just moved in with a significant other. Combining finances, Monarch Money helps you track it all. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com. And make sure you use promo code LOCKEDONNBA. That's promo code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com. So 8.7, Keith, 15 million, 25 million in the wide range of money that we're talking about here for Quentin Grimes. When it comes to the talent here, when it comes to what he means to the 76ers team, with or without Joel Embiid, Paul George, however long they're going to be available for this season, how integral is he to the future of the 76ers?
I mean, with the injuries that they have, with Daryl Morey talking about being patient with VJ Edgecombe.
Oh, boy.
You know, with him saying that, I think that he is important to it. Mm. I mean, I do. I think that, you know, right now, what do the Sixers need? They need two-way players. They need guys. Now, again, some people might say he's not an all-star. He's a part-time starter. He's this and that. But what do they need? They need two-way players. They need length in the backcourt, right? He's 6'5". He can play defense. He can shoot the rock. And I know that when he came here, the team started tanking. But again, 40 points is 40 points, right? He did that twice. So I feel like that under normal circumstances, you would say, bruh, like, you're not going to do that. But right now, we're talking about a team that's regarded as the middle of the pack in the East, right? So they kind of need him. They do. And here's something else. You know, it's not the first time that the 76ers overpaid for someone. I mean, it started out with J.J. Redick, right? I mean, they were tanking. They needed to go out there and get someone. You know, they paid J.J. Redick a lot of money, right? You know, Tobias Harris, he was paid great money to be what they wanted was the third and the fourth option. So right now we look at it and it's like to a point where we're saying, you know, dude, we don't want to give you this money, but at the same time, we're going to depend on you.
Al Horford is another one.
Yeah, Al Horford's another one. Like, but here's the thing. So when a guy basically asks for $25 million, well, sometimes they settle for 20, right? When the team is asking for saying, well, we want to give you $15 million. Well, sometimes they'll give you 20. So again, I think that although that is a lot of money, when we talk about how much money these guys are going to make after this new TV deal comes out, I think you got to do it. It's not his fault that Paul George and Joel Embiid is injured.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. He's not going to get that money anywhere. I mean, he's not going to get that money anywhere else right now. Or I shouldn't say that. I think the circumstances are set up for him to at least to try to get paid. And I'm not mad at him for trying it because the 76ers need him just as much as he needs them to get paid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead. And then I just want to say this. I'm going to say this real quick. I'm sorry.
No, all good.
Here's the deal. So we're talking about Josh Giddey reportedly asking for $30 million, right? So when we talk about this guy asking for 20 or 25, he's asking for less money than these other dudes, right? So, pay him.
I'm with you, and I'm not mad at anybody for getting the money that another team thinks that they're worth. What is Tobias Harris not going to sign that deal? Is Al Horford not going to sign that deal to come to the 76ers? Like, that's just the way. That's the way it's going to go down. But overall, if you're Quentin Grimes, yeah, you could be signing a bigger deal, down the line, especially not just with the influx of money, but similar to last year. If you're of the school that this isn't going to work out, like it's not some happy ending, unfortunately, for the Sixers, where, wow, Paul George looks like he did 2 years ago, and Joel Embiid looks amazing and healthy, and he's playing in 70 games, whatever. I don't see that happening. So that leads me to believe that you're going to see much more of a similar year to the Sixers from last year. And what happened last year? There was room there for Quentin Grimes to get an opportunity to drop 25 points in 14, 15 games, to have 6 30-point games, a 46-point game. Like, there's room for him to pad those stats that look pretty damn sexy in the offseason when another team's trying to sign you. So if you're Quentin Grimes, maybe, you bet on yourself for a short-term deal, and you realize that the Sixers are going to be trying to turn a corner over the next couple of years. You're going to get room to shine here. So I think there's a good opportunity where, this doesn't work out for the Sixers, obviously, but it certainly could work out for Quentin Grimes himself. I think to get back to the conversation about the world in which this works out well for Grimes, he got to be eyeing an opportunity here, Keith, where he's saying, if I bet on myself, the odds are I'm going to get a chance here. I hate to use the term pad the stats, but certainly pad the stats more so than he would if there's a healthy Joel Embiid and Paul George running around.
Yeah, all I know is, that, right now the opportunity is there for you to try to get paid. Whether you get paid or not, you still have to try to do it, right? They'll come to something, but at the same time, when we're looking at the 76ers, you got to understand something. You need pieces around Tyrese Maxey moving forward, right? Mm-hmm. As long as you have Joel Embiid and Paul George on a roster, and you're unable to move them, right? It's going to be tough for you to get guys in the offseason. What they had to do this offseason was they had to go after guys who they liked, right? Free agency. They offered one guy a minimum salary. They offered the other two guys two-way contracts, and then hopefully they'll make it. So what I'm saying is, if you're trying to lock stuff up for the future and daggone well that this player may demand more money next season as a free agent, then try to lock them up and get them, right? Now, There's some people saying, hey, it's not my money. I'm not going to do it. When the last time, so all those people saying they don't want to pay the guy, when the last time that you actually paid him? And I don't want to hear you say you pay your taxes and you bought the tickets and this and that, right? You know what I mean? Because if you were actually paying for the salary, I get it, you would go to the games for free, right?
Right. Yeah. You have your own parking spot, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, you would have a parking spot. You would have a suite up. You would have a suite. So my thing is, it's one of those things where what you have to do is you got to think about the future, because if this guy, you're gambling. Yeah, I get that. You are gambling. But at the same time, you have to figure out, is this going to be a guy that we can lose next year? Or is this a guy that it may look like we may be a little bit overpaying him? But at the same time, if he has another solid season, he's definitely going to get paid. And it's going to be to a point where, okay, yeah, you may have his bird rights next year. But at the same time, by you paying the money that other teams may be willing to give him, is going to set you back. is going to set you back, and you're really going to have to break this team up. But again, you got two guys who you're having a tough time trading. So it's easy for people to say, oh, I'm not going to pay him. Well, good luck with being mediocre for the next 4 to 5 years, because you got other people on the roster who you can't get rid of. And and by the way, they're not going to have a draft pick next year. They're not going to get a top pick next year. Good luck.
There's no tanking. Yeah, there's no tanking next year. If you tank, it's tanking in vain because you get no reward for it, unfortunately. Now, forget about the money. Let's forget about the money for a second here. My major takeaway from last year, Keith, watching those games at the end of the season, and for those that stuck it out with me there on 76ers postcast and all that, good Lord, it was bad. It was rough, but got through it. We all got through it together. The Sixers ended up getting rewarded with the top 3 pick. They used it on VJ Edgecombe, obviously, but one of the things I watched from the last 25 whatever games of last year was Quentin Grimes can play. All right, so let's forget about the money for a second. Talking about who Quentin Grimes is as a player. You mentioned two-way player. Obviously, a guy that could knock down a 3. He's got some handle, can run the offense. My major takeaway from last year was I want Quentin Grimes back on this team. With Joel Embiid, without Joel Embiid, with Paul George, without him, with whatever. I want him on this team. I want him in the backcourt with Tyrese Maxey. I want him in the backcourt with Jared McCain. They get a guard in the draft. That's who I want in the back. I really like him as a player. The $25 million, always thought was ridiculous. Sorry to bring up the money again, but that's just to get that out of the way. But as far as the player that he is, I want him here in Philly. I think he is a good basketball player. I think he can knock down that shot from the outside. I think he can get to the rim. I think he can create. And I think he's got enough court vision to help facilitate when you need him to facilitate. I think when you evaluate, Keith, when you evaluate Quentin Grimes, you mentioned, he's not an all-star. What is he to you?
I mean, he's not an all-star. Like, he's a nice role. I mean, he's a nice addition for a team. You know, it's kind of hard. Before he came to the 76ers, you thought that he was a role player, right? I mean, exactly. but I feel like he's a solid piece that you can have around Maxey. That's what he looks like to me now. Now, the thing is, him asking for $25 million, you know, I don't even think that if you really want to be honest, if they want to be honest, I don't think that they thought he could get $25 million. It's kind of sort of like, you know, when you're trying to sell your house or something like that, and people say, like, you know, what do you want? What's the price tag that you want to get for the house? And they always tell you, even when you go for a job interview, they always tell you to ask for more than what you think that you're worth, right? Right. That way, because then they'll come back and say, oh, no, we can't give you that, but we'll give you 23, or we'll give you 22 and a half. And you're like, dang, all I really wanted was 20. Okay, I'll take it. Right? You know what I'm saying? So like, to me, when that 25 came out, it was kind of like, okay, let me overvalue myself a little bit and see if we could get somewhere in between, right? And so that's what it is. But again, we're talking about an organization that has overpaid people in the past, and maybe that's why they don't want to do it now. And then also you got the second apron thing, but also I think the 76ers kind of put themselves in a bad spot, because when you think about it, it's one of the things where Yabusele, the reason why he's not here is because they said we got to have money for Quentin Grimes. He's our priority. Right? He's our priority. So you mean to tell me, like, if y'all can't come with a good deal for him, and then he takes the 8.7, you mean to tell me you let Yabusele go to the Knicks, who got better with his presence, deeper? Yeah. Like, y'all got to do something. You got to work something out, because you already came out and said that signing him is our priority. You already said, Daryl Morey said this. He says, look, we're going to do whatever we can to make this team better, even if that's going in the second apron. He came out and said that. So now you can't come back and say, well, we really didn't want to pay him that type of money. You already said that. And so the precedent is, and not to keep going on, but you've been around this team for a long time, right? A long time. And you remember when the best team that the 76ers had was when they had their starting five of Tobias, Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, Joel, and JJ Redick. Mm-hmm. And after they made the signing for Tobias and them, Josh Harris had a press conference, the Sixers owner, and said, we intend to run this thing back. Because everyone knows it's hard to win a championship right after you make a trade for integral parts, right? So absolutely. The thing about that is all of a sudden, it's like you did that before. You said you were going to pay people, you didn't pay them, right? And to me, that was the worst mistake the Sixers made by not bringing that team back. But, you go pay Al Horford, and that didn't work, right? So to me, you know what? You got to do something. And again, I don't think that he's going to get the $25 million, but if it's like 18, 19 or something to keep him happy, why not?
All right, so real quick, just yes or no, because there's another new development here that's related to Quentin Grimes, but just yes or no. If he's 18 to 20, if he's 15, if he's 18 to 19, like what number, or maybe you already have him in there, is at that number, is he a starting five player?
I think right now he's a starter. I do. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be a starter like 2-3 years from now. I don't, because my thing is, you have to see what VJ Edgecombe becomes. If everything goes right, VJ Edgecombe is going to mess around and get paid. If he plays to the level that we expect him to play at, he's going to be the next guy to get paid like Tyrese Maxey, probably, right? Yeah, if he plays that way, right? But at the same time, the team is still trying to win, right? Even though their two pieces are hurt, they are still trying to win. So if you're trying to win and you have a win now type of coach, you will feel comfortable early on playing Grimes. And then afterwards, stuff is going to work itself out. Who knows? Kelly Oubre is going to come off the books after this year. So if Quentin Grimes and VJ Edgecombe can both play well, then what do you have? Then we can go with a 3-guard lineup, right? But I think initially the thought process is with a win-now team is that you want Grimes to be the starter and then gradually bring VJ along. And,
gotcha.
That didn't work out poorly for Tyrese Maxey. It didn't work out poorly for him,
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I just want to reiterate real quick what we've been talking about, what we opened the show with here, was this development from a league executive telling the Athletics' Fred Katz about basically why would you pay Quentin Grimes $20 million? You get a guy like Gary Trent Jr. at the minimum. And then also this kind of just lets you know how the league looks at him, unless you think he's going to develop into somebody that's going to be starting in your backcourt with Tyrese Maxey. So that was the first development, just a view from the league on how they see Quentin Grimes in the 76ers situation. So then this just came across from Sham Charania and Anthony Slater of ESPN involving Jonathan Kuminga. Golden State Warriors made another push to retain Jonathan Kuminga over the past several days, but the restricted free agent is continuing to decline their 2-year, $45 million contract offer, sources told ESPN on Wednesday. So that's where we're at. Keith, I want your reaction after this quick pause. You're watching Locked On 76ers on the Locked On Sixers YouTube channel. 2-year, $45 million contract offer. Still, no thanks. Jonathan Kuminga, the Golden State Warriors. What do you make of that?
I mean, if I'm Kuminga, I want out of there anyway. I mean, because when you look at, seriously, let's be real. Like, so, you go there. I mean, here's a guy that, and I get it. You take the money, you do stuff like that. But at the same time, I feel like if he goes elsewhere, he's gonna be. There's more value for him playing for another team, right? And that's not to say he's the type of guy that I would say, you know what, give me that qualifying offer for a year, and then I'll bet on myself. Hopefully I'll stay injury free. Because the thing is, once they got Jimmy Butler, and as long as Jimmy Butler stays healthy, right, Kuminga's not really seeing the floor, man. Not as the guy that he wants. You know what I mean? And not as the role that he wants to be, right? It just seems to me that, that him and Kerr really don't see eye to eye, this and that. So you're going to take the bag and you're going to be miserable. And then not only that, like that $22.5 million is great money, but man, I would love to be in like in Texas or Florida or somewhere like that with that money, as opposed to being in San Francisco, one of the one of the highest places to live in regards to like cost of living and all that stuff. No. I mean, but again, it is what it is, but that's what we're talking about. So you got guys like him, they all want to get paid, all of them. So we're looking at it and we're saying that like he wants $30 million per season. The same thing with Josh Giddey, and Quentin Grimes, everybody's saying he's worth 15, but something tells me if you throw 18 or 19, then they'll start thinking, and then it'll just come down to how many years,
Right.
Years.
Right. I just want to get a couple of comments in here, and I saw one on VJ Edgecombe. I wanted to make sure that we got it in here. B Water says they need to let the young guards play while the East is hurting. Hopefully, you better love somebody. Well, you better love somebody, to be honest with you. It is evident that VJ will assume Grimes' position in the upcoming year. I'm rooting for that case. I'd love to see VJ Edgecombe. I would love. Here's my dream of dreams, Keith. Here's the deal. I'd love to see VJ Edgecombe come out in a very similar way to Jared McCain of last year and be like, oh, damn, this guy's a lot more ready than I thought, except for that being, what, a 20th overall pick? That's your 3rd overall pick. And that's your guy that you want to see take over a starting guard spot next to Tyrese Maxey. So, hey, I'd love to see him be ready for that. 3-time agrees with you. Kerr doesn't like Kuminga, so he should leave. How about this one? Nice with it. Thank you, Nice with it. Trade Kelly Oubre and Grimes for the Clippers pick or Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah.
Worth pondering.
That's a good one, but I don't know if you're gonna get Lauri for that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
There was another one here. Was it DJ Mr. Sandman? I think asked the question about whether or not the Sixers ownership is holding Morey back from making bigger deals or spending more money. I wouldn't see why they would.
I think the problem, what's holding the Sixers back from getting deals is like Paul George's contract. I think that teams are looking at him and saying, we don't really want that. And then you look at the other assets they have. Like who else on this roster can you really trade that you really want to trade? You know what I mean? If it makes sense, like, okay, maybe you can trade Maxey, but right now Maxey is the only healthy guy of the big three. Jared McCain, you want to keep him. Okay, you can get rid of Kelly Oubre, but at the same time, Kelly Oubre, this is the final year of his deal. So you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, it's I think their hands are tied because of the money they have tied up in Embiid and Paul George.
All right. More developments hopefully come out for the rest of today, tomorrow, Friday, and we'll get into it all when it comes to your 76ers. In the meantime, make sure you guys are reading Keith Pompey on Inquirer.com. Hey, Phillies fans, I got you covered today. 2:10, the Phillies look to take their 3rd straight series, this time against the Chicago White Sox. 2:10 start time. Taijuan Walker on the hill for the Phillies. I'll be with you guys on Locked On Phillies for your Locked On Phillies postcast. So make sure you guys like and subscribe to that. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to Locked On 76ers. And we thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen today for your next listen. How about Locked On NBA podcast where there's no off season? Doug, Matt, Hayes keep you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed NBA fan. Find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For Keith Pompey, I'm Marc Farzetta. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow, breaking it all down when it comes to your 76ers. See you then.